Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
अष्ट श्री परिविष्ट राधा माधव की जय, श्री श्री पंचतत्व की जय, सर्वबाधा विघ्न विनाशन के निसंदेह भगवान की जय, भक्तराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, सामित गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर सतनानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति पदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Acharya Rastatara Sadasri Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravisram Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Gopadan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sri Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Ki Jai, Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Gadada Pandit Goswami Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami Ki Jai. So today is the auspicious Abhibharv Titi, or the appearance day of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So I'm going to read something from a book that's a compilation of different associates of Lord Chaitanya. So you might have seen this book, it's very nice. This is a compilation by Swami B.B. Tirtha, Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj, and it gives some insights into the character of who Gadadhar Pandit actually is. So I'm just going to read from this. I may stop or comment, or I may not. So this is a little awkward, I have to say. It's not designed for people that can't sit cross-legged. Okay, so there's a verse here. It's from the Gaura Ganadesh Dipika. There's a lot of that book it mentions a lot of different personalities associated with Lord Chaitanya and who they were in Krishna Leela and other pastimes. So this is Gaura Ganadesh Dipika 147 to 150. I won't read the Sanskrit, I'm not very good at that. But it says, the avatar of love, who was previously the queen of Vrindavan, Radha, is now the beloved of Gaura, named Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Swarup Damodar Goswami himself indicated that Gadadhar was Braja's goddess of fortune, the Lakshmi who was previously the beloved of Shyamasundar in Vrindavan. She has today become the goddess of fortune and love for Gaura, and it is known as Sri Gadadhar Pandit, and is known as Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Lalita, who is also known as Anuradha, is Radha's closest friend and confidant. She has also entered into Gadadhar, as was shown in the play Chaitanya Chandrodaya. So Gadadhar Pandit is a combination of Radharani and Lalita, as we worship both on the altar here, but that's the position. So Gadadhar Tattva, Gadadhar Panditadi, Prabhura Nidshakti, Tan Sabara Charane Mora Sahasra Prana. Gadadhar Pandit and others are the Lord's own energies. I pay thousands of obeisances to their feet. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they're Shakti, whereas in the Panchatattva we have Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, and Advaita Chandra, the Purush, and Gadadhar and Srivas, they're Shakti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in 6 features, namely as the 2 types of Guru, the devotees of the Lord himself, his avatar, his expansion, and his energy. According to the principle of simultaneous oneness and difference, they are all identified with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. She who was Radha in Krishna's pastimes became Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami in Gaura Leela. When Gaura manifests his identity with Narayan, his Shaktis are his wives Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. When identifying with Krishna, his Shakti is Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So depending on the mood, then they manifest different features. So identifying Gaura as with Lord Narayan, then his wives Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya, and when he identifies with Krishna, his Shakti is Gadadhar Pandit. Panchatattva Makam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. I offer my obeisances to Krishna, who appears in 5 features: as a devotee, as the expansion of a devotee, as an avatar of a devotee, as a pure devotee, and as devotional energy. Let's try that. So these 5 features all appeared with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his avatar, and in their association he joyfully performed the congregational chanting of the holy names. Though he appears in these 5 forms, there is in fact no difference between them. The distinctions arise due to his desire to relish different devotional flavors. Sri Gauranga, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Pandit make up the Panchatattva, and there is spiritually no difference between them. The Supreme Truth has unlimited pastimes in order to relish the different tastes of transcendental relationship, and thus he separates into these 5 forms as the form of a devotee, the devotional manifestation, the devotional avatar, the devotional energy, and the pure devotee. So Jai Jai Nityananda Gadadhara Jivan, Jai Jai Advaitadi Bhaktera Saran. All glories to the life of Nityananda Prabhu and Gadadhar. All glories to the shelter of all the devotees headed by Advaita. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur comments on the words, the life of Gadadhar, as follows. Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is chief amongst the most intimate devotees of Sri Chaitanya. He is the fountainhead of the entire Shakti Tattva and is thus present equally in Mahaprabhu's Leelas in Nabadweep and in Nilachal. His childhood home was Nabadweep. Later he took Chaitra sannyas in Jagannath Puri and lived in a garden or a tota by the seashore. Pure devotees who wish to enter into the Madhurya Ras of Sri Radha Govinda take shelter in Gadadhar Pandit, and only then they will come to be known as Gauranga Mahaprabhu's intimate associates. Those devotees who are not so inclined to the Madhurya Ras take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu and engage in pure devotional service. Some of Mahaprabhu's devotees, such as Narahari, were followers of Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. They took refuge in him because they knew him to be Mahaprabhu's dearest associate. Some devotees therefore called Chaitanya the life of Nityananda Prabhu, while others call him the life of Gadadhar. Bit technical. Nice if we understood any of this. So that's the situation. He's the life of Gadadhar Prananath, and he's also the life of Nityananda. So Gadadhar Pandit's early life. just give me that. No, put a rest there. No, I need something here. If I put this here, it's too far away. Can we get another book or something? Just try this one. Give me that book. Put it there. No, doesn't fit. Sorry about this. Just put that somewhere else. Alright, we'll try this. So, Gadadhar Pandit's early life. Gadadhar Pandit appeared in the village of Beleti Gram in the Chittagong district of modern Bangladesh in 1408 of the Shaka era, which is equivalent to 1487 AD. He appeared in the dark moon day of the month of Vaishakha. His father was Madhava Mishra, a Virendra Brahmana in the Kashyap Gotra, and his mother was Ratnavati Devi. He also had a younger brother named Vaninath. The family lived in Beleti Gram until Gadadhar was 12, and then they moved to Nabadweep. Gadadhar Pandit was a brahmachari for his entire life. Indeed, his indifference to the pleasures of the world was such that Aishwaryaṁ was very impressed when he visited Navadweep. Aishwaryaṁ gave Gadadhar Pandit instruction in a book that he himself had written, Krishna Lilamrita. While Mahaprabhu was delighting in his pastimes as a student, there was no scholar in the town of Nabadweep who was unafraid of entering into debate with him. Mahaprabhu would defeat one's position and then show how the same position could be defended. So he was so expert that he could argue one way, defeat all the arguments, and then he would do it in reverse and establish the theories that he just defeated himself. So Mukunda Dutt, Srivas Pandit, and others who knew the joys of devotional sentiment were afraid of getting involved in such useless debates with Nimai Pandit, and so they would avoid him. So he was like a logician. He could defeat anybody. But the real devotees, they didn't like to hear it was so dry that they avoided Nimai Pandit so that he couldn't engage them in various philosophical debates. One day, Nimai Pandit saw Gadadhar Pandit and asked him to give the definition of liberation. Gadadhar Pandit answered according to the Nyaya school that liberation consisted in the final eradication of all miseries, atyantika dukkha nivritti. Nimai Pandit then proceeded to show how this definition was inadequate. The other devotees who were listening to him speak thought how wonderful it would be if such a brilliant scholar would only become a devotee. When Mahaprabhu returned from Gaya, he began to reveal the transformations of divine love that amazed the devotees. Sriman Pandit was the first to see Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms, and he reported what he had seen to all the other devotees, who were overjoyed at this news. When Mahaprabhu decided to reveal his true identity to the devotees, he told them to come to the house of Sukrambara Brahmachari. Gadadhar Pandit was amongst those who went there. But he remained discreet about his presence. When he saw Mahaprabhu become intoxicated with the power of the holy names, Gadadhar Pandit fainted. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said to him, Gadadhar, you have such good fortune. From your early childhood, your mind has been fixed on Krishna's lotus feet. Meanwhile, I have been wasting my life in useless activities. Despite obtaining the great treasure of a human birth, by my misfortune, I was able to make no use of it. That's from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Subsequently, Gadadhar Pandit would calm Mahaprabhu whenever he was overly affected by his ecstasies. One day, Gadadhar Pandit said to Mahaprabhu, your Lord Krishna is hidden in your heart. As soon as he heard this, Mahaprabhu began to claw at his chest, but Gadadhar Pandit stopped him from doing so. When Sachi saw how clever Gadadhar Pandit was in handling her son, she asked him to always stay near Nimai to protect him. That's from Chaitanya Bhagavat also. So when he began to manifest the symptoms of pure devotion, he would dance and forget himself, and sometimes it looked like he would practically die. So Mother Sachi was always anxious that somebody look out for him and make sure that he doesn't go too far. So Gadadhar Pandit, that was his play with Lord Chaitanya, that he would always be in a protected mood. So Gadadhar Pandit takes initiation from Pundarik. Once, Mahaprabhu suddenly started calling out the name of his dear associate, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, saying, Pundarik, my father, and he would cry. None of the devotees who were present knew Pundarik Vijayanidhi, who was formerly Radharani's father, Brishabhanu, and thus they were unable to understand what the Lord meant. When they asked him, he glorified Pundarik Vijayanidhi and told them that he would shortly be coming to Navadvip and Mayapur. However, when Pundarik Vijayanidhi arrived in Navadvip, nobody recognized him because he disguised himself as a great sense enjoyer in order to mask his profound devotional feelings. Mukunda Dutt and Vasudev Dutt were former residents of Chittagong, and they knew Pundarik Vijayanidhi very well because they're all from the same place. One day, Mukunda Dutt told Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami that he wanted to introduce him to a very advanced Vaishnav, and he took him to Pundarik Vijayanidhi's house. Mukunda introduced the two of them, and Vijayanidhi happily engaged Gadadhar Pandit in conversation. Gadadhar Pandit, however, who had been indifferent to sensual pleasures since he was very young, could not help but doubt Pundarik Vijayanidhi when he saw the expensive furnishings by which he was surrounded, from the fine silk sheets as white as foam, as milk foam, to the perfumes in the air, to the pan that he was chewing. Mukunda saw the doubt written in Gadadhar Pandit's face and decided to reveal Pundarik Vijayanidhi's true devotional nature to him. He recited the following two verses in glorification of Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam. So, from an external point of view, Pundarik Vijayanidhi looked like an ordinary sense enjoyer, but actually he was deliberately keeping himself hidden. So when Mukunda Dutt and Vasudev Dutt introduced Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik, Gadadhar Pandit, he became a little doubtful. This Pundarik is supposed to be a great devotee, but he surrounded himself with opulence. So he didn't appreciate that very much. He became a little affected negatively in his mind. So these two verses then were recited by Mukunda Dutt. I won't read the Sanskrit, but this is from the Bhagavatam 3.2.23. How truly amazing! The sister of Bakashura, the evil Putana, was sent on a mission to kill Krishna. Despite her evil intentions, he drank the Kalakuta poison that was mixed with her breast milk and awarded her the position of a wet nurse as Ambika and Kilimba in Golok. Is there anyone else I can take shelter who is more merciful than this Krishna? So that was one verse that they recited. And the next one, Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. So that's from Canto 10, Chapter 6, verse 34 and 35. The instant that Pundarik Vijayanidhi heard these verses, he began to cry, "Hey, Krishna!" and he fell to the ground in a faint. Extraordinary ecstatic symptoms began to show on his body. Sri Gadadhar Pandit was amazed to see this reaction, and he began to regret the offensive thoughts that he had been having just moments before. Later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Gadadhar Pandit that the best way to become free of this offense was to ask Pundarik Vijayanidhi for initiation. So this is how Gadadhar Pandit became his disciple. So he had a doubt about him, but then seeing that transformation on the recitation or remembrance of Krishna's killing of Putana and giving her salvation, then Pundarik became very ecstatic, and so Gadadhar Pandit then understood, I've committed a big offense in thinking that he's an ordinary man. So therefore he took initiation from Pundarik. So Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was Mahaprabhu's constant companion. He participated in Mahaprabhu's water sports after the conversion of Jagai and Madhai. He acted in the play about Krishna Leela in Chandrasekhar's house. He observed the great Epiphany, or Mahaprakash, in Srivas Angam, and he was there when the He was there when the Kazi was converted and when Mahaprabhu took sannyas. He accompanied Mahaprabhu to Puri, where he joined him in cleaning the Gunjitsha temple and then bathing in the Narendra Sarovar, and in so many other pastimes he was present. So wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, Gadadhar Pandit was always there with him, enjoying the same pastimes. At Chandrasekharacharya's house, in the first act of the play about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan that Mahaprabhu staged, Haridas Thakur played the part of the village constable. Srivas Pandit played Narada Muni, and Mahaprabhu played Rukmini. In the second act, Gadadhar Pandit also dressed as a woman, at which time Mahaprabhu said, Gadadhar is a part of my Vaikuntha family. Afterwards, Mahaprabhu dressed as the primal energy and gave joy to everyone in the form of the Mother of the Universe. The devotees too glorified him with hymns addressed to the Divine Mother. So this was a tradition, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, where they would do these plays or dramas, and they would take the position various personalities. Prabhupada also, you'll see, was very keen on drama. He encouraged his disciples, especially we had in New York, the Vaikuntha players. So Prabhupada would encourage them. And when they did it, I remember here in 1977, the Vaikuntha players came and they played the first act of the Ram Leela, Ramayana. Prabhupada came down in the evening to watch it, and when they finished, he was so enthused, he was clapping his hands and smiling like anything. So the lead of the drama performers was Sudama Swami at that time. He'd been a professional actor at one point. So he played what they call the mother of Ram. That I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name now. What's the name of that? The mean one. Kauśalya? Not Kauśalya, the other one. The the one that had him sent to the forest. Kaikeyi. Yeah, so anyway, Sudama Maharaj, he played that part. So afterwards, Prabhupada came back up to his rooms, and he, of course, if you've seen Prabhupada's rooms, there's the sitting room and the bedroom. So there's a door just to link the two. So just as Prabhupada was coming out of the bedroom, Sudama Maharaj, he was just coming up into Prabhupada's room. So he entered from the veranda. Prabhupada kind of bumped into him almost, coming out from the bedroom. And as soon as Prabhupada saw Sudama Maharaj, he immediately slapped him on the back several times. He was so enthusiastic, and he was praising him like anything for his part in the drama. So this is part of our tradition. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they would also play these different parts in the dramas, and that would increase their ecstasies. Nowadays I see a lot of our devotees, because they don't take the time and trouble to study these leelas and understand the meaning of them and the feelings of them, they substitute that for some superficial joking and laughing, and they make the pastimes a little frivolous. So that's not the kind of drama that Lord Chaitanya advised. They did it very seriously, and when they did the dramas, it would invoke the rasa of the exchanges and increase their ecstasy. Gadadhar Pandit's Kshetra Sannyas. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami went to live in Puri as a Kshetra sannyasi. Mahaprabhu gave him the service of the Tota Gopinath deity and told him to live in the Yameshvara Tota, or the garden adjoining the Yameshvara Shiva temple. On one occasion, when Gadadhar Pandit heard that Nityananda Prabhu had come to Puri, he invited him to come and take Tota Gopinath prasadam. Nityananda Prabhu accepted his invitation and brought some fine rice from Bengal as an offering for Gopinath. Gadadhar Pandit cooked the rice along with leaves and vegetables from the Yameshvara garden. When he was offering the foodstuffs to the deity, Mahaprabhu also appeared there, giving him great pleasure. The three of them joyfully took prasadam together. That's from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. When Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya used all the means at their disposal to keep him in Puri. On the third Chaturmasya, after his departure from Navadvip, all the Bengali devotees came to Puri with their wives to see him. After the Gundicha temple cleansing and the Rath Yatra, the devotees returned home. As they were leaving, the devotees from Kulina village asked Mahaprabhu to describe the characteristics of a devotee. Mahaprabhu then described the differences between a Vaishnav, a more advanced Vaishnav, and the most advanced Vaishnav. When Mahaprabhu showed even more determination to go to Vrindavan, the devotees finally gave him permission to leave after Vijay Dasami. So Lord Chaitanya kept wanting to go and visit Vrindavan, but the leading followers, they kept trying to persuade him not to go on one pretext or another. So in that way, for 2 or 3 years, they tricked him into staying in Puri. But finally he said, no, you can't do this anymore, I'm going. So when Mahaprabhu crossed the Chitrotpal river to leave Puri, Ramananda Roy, Mangalaraj and Hari Chandan continued on in his company. Because of his Kshetra sannyas, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was not permitted to go any further. So 2 or 3 others went with Lord Chaitanya, at least initially. But although Gadadhar Pandit wanted to go, he was forbidden because he'd taken this Kshetra sannyas, which means you have to stay in one place. There's one kind of sannyas where you don't stay in any place more than 3 days. There's another kind of sannyas where you never leave the place where you're in. So that's Kshetra sannyas. He was unable to tolerate the idea of separation from the Lord, however, and wanted to continue on with him. Mahaprabhu had to remind him of his vows to remain in Jagannath Puri, and he forbade him to go onwards to Braj. Gadadhar Pandit retorted, "To hell with my vows to remain in Puri. As far as I'm concerned, Jagannath Puri is where you are, is wherever you are." Mahaprabhu insisted and told Gadadhar Pandit not to abandon his service to Gopinath. Gadadhar Pandit stubbornly argued, "Just see, your lotus feet is worth 1,000,000 times more than any service to Gopinath." When Mahaprabhu said, "If you abandon your duties to Gopinath, then it will all be considered my fault," Gadadhar said, "No, I'll take all responsibility for any offence for abandoning the service to Gopinath and for breaking the vow of Kshetra sannyas. I will go alone without disturbing you. I am going to Bengal to see Sachi Mata." Other than Mahaprabhu's intimate associates, no one will be able to understand the extent of Gadadhar Pandit's devotion to Lord Gauranga. Love on the path of spontaneous devotion is not easy to comprehend. Gadadhar Pandit was ready to abandon all of his vows and his service and everything for the sake of Mahaprabhu. When Mahaprabhu's party arrived at Cuttack, 100 kilometers north of Puri, Mahaprabhu called Gadadhar Pandit and said, "You have realized your objective to break your vows and leave your service. If you come with me, that will make you happy. But do you want your own happiness or mine? It will make me unhappy if your vows to remain in Puri and to serve Gopinath are broken. If you want my happiness, you must return to Puri. That is all I have to say." When he heard Mahaprabhu's words, Gadadhar Pandit fell to the ground and fainted. By the order of Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya comforted Gadadhar Pandit and accompanied him back to Puri. So somehow or another, Lord Chaitanya was able to convince him, even though he was objecting. So, there's one name, Gadai Gauranga. Due to her submissiveness and simplicity, Krishna's wife Rukmini was not always able to understand his joking words and would become frightened. Like her, Gadadhar Pandit was also unable to always understand Mahaprabhu's witticisms or his feigned indifference, all of which would cause him anxiety. So that was one of the features of Queen Rukmini. When Krishna sometimes he would joke with her or threaten to do something, she didn't know how to handle it. She couldn't understand whether he was serious or not. So she would get so conflicted within herself, she would faint sometimes. So similarly, in the mood of Rukmini, Gadadhar Pandit, he would sometimes get in that same confusion. And Lord Chaitanya would sometimes joke with him, but he couldn't understand whether he was joking or not, so he would become completely confused. So that mood of Rukmini was there. Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was by nature simple and pleasant. On one occasion, when Vallabha Bhatt came to see Mahaprabhu, he saw that Vallabha Bhatt was proud of his scholarship and he ridiculed him. Mahaprabhu pointed out flaws in his philosophical understanding and ignored him. Vallabha Bhatt responded to Mahaprabhu's indifference by starting to visit Gadadhar Pandit and making a show of attachment to him. Mahaprabhu did not particularly like Gadadhar Pandit's relation with Vallabha Bhatt, and he began to demonstrate a certain coolness towards him also. This behavior made Gadadhar Pandit fear that Mahaprabhu would ostracize him, and so he came and fell at the Lord's feet and started to cry. Mahaprabhu laughed and embraced Gadadhar Pandit. He said, "I wanted to tease you, but you were not flustered. You said nothing in anger, but patiently bore everything. Your mind was not agitated by my tricks. By remaining fixed in your simple nature, you have purchased me." So no one can fully describe the nature of Gadadhar Pandit's ecstatic love. Mahaprabhu has thus been given the name Gadadhar Prananath, Gadadhar's life and soul. No one can describe the Lord's mercy towards Gadadhar Pandit. Thus, people sang their names together, Gadai Gauranga. That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami remained on this earth only 11 months after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, Narahari Chakravarti has described the terrible suffering of Gadadhar Pandit in Mahaprabhu's separation. He remained alive only in order to be able to see śrī-nivāsena. As he repeated the names of Gaurasundara with his eyes closed, his sighs were as hot as flames. None but the Lord can know how Gadadhar Pandit suffered in his absence. His motionless body remained alive only so that he could bestow his mercy on Srivas Pandit. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami disappeared at Puri in the dark moon day of Jyeshta in 1456 of the Saka era, which is 1535 AD. So that's a few things about Gadadhar Pandit. Let's see, there's one other thing I wanted to do. So another time when they were doing their evening dramas, Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami came onto the stage dressed as a gopi and began to dance like a woman in love. Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu then entered the stage area. Mahaprabhu in the dress of an Adya Shakti and Nityananda Prabhu as an old woman. Radha's as an old woman, Radha's maternal grandmother. As the members of the audience looked at Mahaprabhu, each beheld him according to his or her own mood. Some as Kamala, some as Lakshmi, others as Sita, and yet others as Mahamaya. Even those who had known Nimai since his birth, including Sachi, were unable to recognize him. In the guise of playing the roles of the different goddesses, Mahaprabhu revealed the divine energies and taught the proper respect due to each one of them. When the Lord was thus dancing as the Adya Shakti, Nityananda Prabhu fainted and all the other devotees began to cry loudly. So that was that feeling was invoked in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda by seeing Gadadhar Pandit performing this drama dressed as a woman. Okay, one other one. This was Gadadhar Pandit. He, for one reason or another, he wanted to retake his initiation. He didn't think that he had fulfilled it enough. He was initiated, of course, by Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So one day, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami asked Mahaprabhu if he could hear his initiation mantra from him. He said, "Ever since I repeated my Ishta mantra to someone, I have been unable to concentrate when I chant. Please repeat the mantra to me, then my mind will be calmed." Mahaprabhu answered, "You already have a guru. Be careful, otherwise you will become an offender to him. Everything I have is yours, even my life, what to speak of the mantra. But as long as your guru is alive, it is improper for me to repeat the mantra to you." So he said, "You've already been given initiation by Pundarik. Again, you want to do it from me so that you can concentrate more. This is an offense. If your guru is present, you cannot go to another Vaishnav and retake the same mantras." So Gadadhar Pandit answered, he said, he is not here. Please do it in his place." Mahaprabhu replied, "Destiny will bring your guru, Vijayanidhi, to you." The omniscient Mahaprabhu continued, "Sri Pundarik Vijayanidhi will be coming to Puri to see me and will be here in 10 days. And that is what came to pass. Mahaprabhu became ecstatic, crying, "Father has come, Father has come." Gadadhar went to Vijayanidhi upon his arrival. Gadadhar asked Premnidhi to again initiate him in the Ishta mantra, which he lovingly did. "How can I sufficiently glorify Sri Pundarik Vijayanidhi? who has a loving disciple like Gadadhar Pandit. That's from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Our most worshipful Srila Prabhupada, means Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, has commented on the above verse in the following way. The mantra is Shabda Brahman, the divine sound that destroys the mental aptitude for sense gratification. If one instructs a faithless person in the divine sound, the instructor's mind will become contaminated. If one's divine knowledge is lost due to bad association, then one must seek the same again. Gadadhar Pandit understood this, so he asked Gaurasundara Mahaprabhu to reinitiate him. Mahaprabhu's instruction, however, was that he should go to his own guru and hear the mantra again. The lesson to be learned here is that Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is Mahaprabhu's eternal associate. It is thus impossible that any contamination could have entered his mind. Through Gadadhar Pandit, Mahaprabhu was instructing those who would be guru that if one instructs an unqualified person in the mantra, it loses its potency and no longer brings the same joy to the heart of the practitioner. When this happens, it is necessary to go to the Guru and hear the mantra from him again. It is against the custom to hear the mantra again from somebody who is not one's Guru, because one cannot change initiating spiritual masters in this way. Gadadhar Pandit was only saying, I cannot concentrate like before. That is, the ecstatic feelings no longer come when I chant. So he did this out of an exemplary humility designed to teach humanity how to act. That's an interesting comment there by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay, what time is that? All right, so it's 5 to 9. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Jai, thank you so much for a wonderful lecture on this Gadadhara Appearance Day. We know that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna with the mood and feelings of Srimati Radharani. So Gadadhar Pandit, that is Radharani, how we can understand is Radharani with the feelings and mood of Radharani. I don't know.
You have to speak more clearly, I can't.
Excuse me, maybe my accent. I'm saying
loudly.
I'm saying that we know that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna with the mood and feelings of Srimati Radharani. So Gadadhar Pandit is, we heard that is Srimati Radharani is with Srimati Radharani also with the moods and feelings for Srimati Radharani, or how we can understand this?
It's practically impossible to understand. Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, all of them are the Supreme and is Shakti or energy. So you have Lord Chaitanya, you've got Lord Nityananda, you've got Advaitacharya, they're Purush. But they're different feet, they represent or have the mood of different levels of devotion. Then you have Gadadhar Pandit, and you have Srivas Thakur, who is Narada Muni, and Gadadhar Pandit, he is Radharani. And it's also, there was another Gadadhar, there's Gadadhar Pandit and there's Gadadhar Das, 2 different personalities. But Gadadhar Das is said to be the effulgence of Lord Chaitanya's body. whereas Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani herself. So it's just, these things are inconceivable. They act together or apart. It's the same personality. So we shouldn't artificially try to understand. Whatever we can understand will be given to us in due course if we practice our devotional service properly. So Gadadhar Pandit as Radharani, no one can approach Krishna except through Radharani. So similarly, Gadadhar Pandit was always with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wherever he went. Only in that period of separation when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan and toured. So Gadadhar Pandit had to remain behind because of his Chaitra Sannyas vows. Other than that, they were always together with in all the pastimes. I mean, I can't say that I know anything. I'm just trying to remember a few things, that's all. Any other questions? Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, I don't understand why Gadadhar Pandit wanted to take reinitiation.
Wanted to what?
Why did Gadadhar Pandit want to take reinitiation?
Yes. Well, according to that comment by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, apparently because of some superficial, not deviation, but some fault was there in his application. Therefore he lost the taste. He was thinking he had lost the taste of chanting the mantra. So he wanted to get reinitiated in the mantra so that he could properly serve Pundarik Vijayanidhi. He felt that as a disciple he wasn't doing it properly. So he thought that if I go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will speak the mantra to me and that will give it full potency again. Then I can serve Pundarik Vijayanidhi properly. That was his idea. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you can't do that. You have to go back to Pundarik and he'll say the mantra again. That will clear any lingering offense or discrepancy, and then you'll be able to chant properly. So he did that, and that worked. So what the background to that is, I have no idea. This is something I only read this myself just recently, but apparently anyway, there's some exchange there, and the chanting of his mantra he felt was not giving him the same ecstasy, so he wanted to rectify that. So I think one lesson that we can learn from that is to be attentive when we're doing our Maha Mantra or Gayatri mantras. Mantras must be chanted with sincerity and without offense. And if we feel that there is some discrepancy or lacking in it, then we should approach our own guru for rectification. If your guru is no longer on the planet, that's another thing. But as long as the guru is on the planet, then you have to go to him for clearing all your offenses. That's as much as I can say. Any other questions? Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gadadhar Pandit ki